Recording started.
Are you sure?
Well, it's got the red light this time. Okay, this is the regular monthly meeting of the PPPB Board meeting, Monday, January 3rd, 2022, scheduled for 6 p.m., starting at 6:11 p.m.
January 20th.
3 of the 4 current members present constitutes a quorum. We'll start with public comment. No public comment today. Christy... Kristen? Flattery.
Oh.
She resigned via email but never applied a wet signature to the city clerk. So as an elected official, she's technically still on.
Oh, okay.
We are going to go out of order unless there's an objection, and just take up the Council on Aging items first. Hearing no objection. The first item is a PCF for F. Collins, which is a minimum wage adjustment from $13.75 to $14.25, in keeping with the minimum wage adjustment with the new year.
Is any of this stuff for us, or that's all yours?
Well, these are all the originals, I think.
Oh.
Actually, vacation, when we get to that.
That's all right, I don't need any more paperwork if it's...
So after our last meeting, I did reach out to the Council on Aging, the library, the city clerk, or the election division. Identified that each one of them had employees that were making less than $14.25, and asked them to submit PCFs for us to vote and approve, as we did with the fire department 2 weeks ago. So that's going to be a reoccurring theme tonight. So tonight we have one from the Council on Aging to consider. If everyone's fine with moving them up to minimum wage.
I was wondering if we could do it as sort of a block vote, just do them all. Because we have to move them up. So why not just vote on them all at once?
I mean, technically, we don't have to, because municipalities are exempt from but we will, because it's the right thing to do, but we're not bound by the federal.
Yeah, we're bound by the federal, not the state.
Or state, right.
Federal's at $7.25 an hour.
That's ridiculous.
So do I understand your motion to be that you're making a motion to approve all minimum wage adjustments that are on the agenda for tonight?
Absolutely.
From $13.75 to $14.25, regardless of department?
Yes.
Second.
Is there a second?
And even those ones that are less than $13.75?
Well, are there any?
The election
Because
workers.
If they were following it, they were at $13.50, and you've also, I believe, got all of the election workers there, which they had skipped a year, so
Right.
I think they're at...
So we're just going to make,
Something.
the minimum anybody can make here in town is $14.25.
For the ones you have in front of you.
Correct, that are on the agenda tonight,
Yep.
which includes election workers, Council on Aging, and the library.
Yep.
All right, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Okay, next is the Council on Aging Program Coordinator's position, the PRF. Is that one? Program coordinator. So we have a PRF for a program coordinator, partially funded via the grant. Increased responsibility, reason for request is increased responsibilities and hours for the COA staff. Requested start date is March 1st, 2022. Pay scale is $17 to $20 per hour is the range. Number of hours, 14 per week. Attached to the request is the job posting for a part-time COA program coordinator, as well as the COA program coordinator salary calculations. Accounts to be impacted are the town budget, the FSG, the FRTA, and the Memory Cafe are the funding sources. I don't have copies, so we'll just take a second and individually review it.
Now, can I vote on this, or do I have to abstain?
I'd say you're not scoring it. You're not approving a person you talked about. You're just basically approving posting the job, so I say you're all right to vote on it.
Okay. Yeah, can't yell at me, Janet. Just point out one thing, that on the pay scale, you have $18.50 an hour.
That was an estimated to do the calculations. We don't know based on.
Right.
Yeah, I think that was just, it was halfway and,
Yeah, so.
Okay, so that
It's an
is
estimate, yeah.
irrelevant.
How it would.
Necessary, okay.
I mean, it could be a little bit higher, it could be a little bit lower depending on.
All right, as long as nobody's objecting to that, I think it's good to know.
I move that we accept them.
Yeah, the only thing that I would, because we've added it to the other job postings, is that we state in the posting that the posting shall be open for a minimum of 10 days. Right, just adding that line down at the bottom.
Or say, yeah, and, yeah, okay.
Or until filled.
Or open until filled, but,
Right, but you have
But you wanna say the
you have to at
minimum.
least wait
No,
10
right,
days
yeah,
before you
yeah,
can,
okay.
right.
minimum 10 days to be posted.
And that's in our regulations, right? So.
Yep. So there's a motion to approve it as modified?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so moved. there anything else for the council?
No, I don't think so. I just, in
Okay.
case you had any questions, I didn't want to get delayed, so I thought
No.
I'd come in case anything came up.
That's okay. All right, so let's backtrack for the
Thank you.
town. You're welcome. The town administrator's portion. We have two proposal offered by the town administrator, which will be offered at the meeting. Adjusted wording for sick time section. We took that up 2 weeks ago. Has there been any modification to it, or
No.
it's as is?
That's as it
Okay.
was.
And then we also have the vacation section for our consideration.
Might want to do the extended accident and sickness plan.
Okay, and before we get to that one,
That's fairly simple and straightforward. The just change is adding one word to it.
So I don't remember actually going over this before.
the vacation one is new.
Okay.
Yep. But,
Thank you. Again.
See ya.
Take care, have a good evening.
I thought I printed it out, but I don't have it. But
It should be there in the rest of them. You can steal mine.
yeah,
Basically, the current one reads is all full-time and part-time employees after 6 months of continuous service
would qualify.
would qualify. So that would be all part-timers, which wasn't the intent. So my suggestion, recommendation is to add the word benefited after part-time, which means it's those employees that are over 20 hours or more and already benefited.
Right.
Okay.
That would make sense, yes.
Yes.
Found them.
There's a good array of different paperwork in here that was in that mailbox, so.
It seems to make sense to me because although without the word benefited in there, it implies that anybody that's on the payroll for the town would be eligible for this particular benefit. And
Right.
it's only designed to be whatever the minimum number of hours are to be.
20.
20 hours and above.
Right.
So if there's no objection, we'll move this one forward and add it to the public meeting that we need to schedule on it.
Or,
Okay.
I
All right.
move to approve that, if I have to do that.
You second, Donna?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Okay, so now we have the vacation, which I think we're gonna have, are there two different versions?
There's two different versions there, and I'm going to withdraw my request that you think about actually having a public hearing, moving this one forward at this point in time, because what I was hoping was that there'd probably be some simple language, a simple way to
Two different versions.
change
Okay,
it
so this is-
and make it a little more employee-friendly, because of the fact that we don't currently have an accrual system. It makes it a little more complicated to that. And my alternative, which would be the first one that you have in front of
This one.
you, which is this
Okay.
one,
This is,
was my alternate, and even with that, there would be a considerable amount of work that would need to be done additionally over what the treasurer's collector's office currently does to track it. So, but that being said, and I actually have a third, I'm going to keep working on this over the next month, but I don't want to hold up the public hearing on the other one. So,
I mean, we don't do accruals, like, we don't accrue per pay period or anything. I don't know, I think it's more complicated than it needs to be sometimes. Like, I know it was I know the way it is now is hard to decipher, and
Well, it's not only
to be
hard.
fair.
It's not only hard to decipher, I think one of the things, especially and it may be the fact that I just have to go back into it and actually figure out rewording for like A through F with the .083 and everything else. Because, you know, and I think it's correct, and I may actually suggest adding some days to it too, but if I do that, I would say that I'm over my authority to just bring it to you and go forward without going back to the select board. But, you know, one of the pieces that's hard, and I haven't really figured out, other than accrual method, which I know, and that's the second one that's there, it gets tough because you can have someone start, you know, worst case scenario, you could have somebody start on July 15th, and okay, when they get to the next July 1st, they don't even have 1 year of service.
That's not right.
And that's not right, and when you get to year 2, they're only 15 days short, but they don't have the 2 years of service to get all of those days. So that's what I'm trying to figure out how to get there, and I think
Do you make it prorated for the first year, the first fiscal year only? And then you assume if you make it to the end of the next fiscal year, that's when you start?
well, I got, but you may still find that someone's almost got 2 years of service in that second one and still not getting all the credit, you know, for being 2 years. I mean, it's in this first one, I went to a drastic measure, and it's somewhat like, it's not an accrual base, but it's somewhat like an accrual basis, because this is what I added to it. Employees' vacation time shall be calculated as of the anniversary date of full-time or part-time benefit employees, anniversary date within the fiscal year for which it is loaded on that July 1st. Example, employees' anniversary date falls on October 1st. Calculation for years of employment and vacation time earned for the anniversary date, years of service, would be loaded on that previous July 1st.
And that's how we do it in South Hadley. So
Yeah.
as long as, like, if you're 5 years when you get 3 weeks, if your 5 years is any time in that fiscal year of July, that starts July 1, you get that third week.
That July.
Right. And then I went back further on, just because you're actually advancing them some vacation time. Vacation may be used at any time once accrued and properly approved, but after the probationary period has been completed. Any vacation pay received in advance of actual accrual, i.e. reaching anniversary date, shall be deducted from the employee's final paycheck if separation from town service for any reason occurs.
I mean, I don't even know if you can legally do that.
Well, I found it in someone else's personnel file, so I'm guessing we can't, but I can run it by KP Law. But that was one way around it, but even talking with Jen under the current system, she thinks that it's still going to be a lot of calculations that we don't currently have to do on that July 1st. But I just wanted to, thought it was also a good time
Well,
to talk with
I
the
understand
board about
it's a
that,
large
too.
calculation, but you already have, the treasurer's office already has a spreadsheet with everyone's wages and their data hire.
Right.
I'm trying to visualize it, if there's a column there that says how many vacation days they get.
Well, when you go in to put the accruals in, you have on that screen the date of hire and everything. So, I mean, you have to go into the records to put the accruals in anyway. So you have
So
to
you're
look
already
at
in
them.
there.
And,
So you are doing accruals, or we're not?
like,
You're
well,
doing
when
it manually.
when
It
you
says it on
put
the
in as
back.
of July 1, if they get 3 weeks or 2 weeks or whatever, you're putting those days in, or hours in, or however, I can't
Right,
remember how.
Once a year.
So you do it once a year. So, I mean, I like the idea of crediting them
To their anniversary date.
if their anniversary date falls within that. I mean, personally, I mean, I don't know. Everyone, I think the town needs to be a little more competitive when it comes to vacation time. You know, like, we don't,
I won't
To
dis-
to have 1 week of vacation, maybe after like a whole year of service, or,
I won't disagree with it.
and I don't think that that's, I mean, I don't know. I don't, and the fact that we pay such low wages and they can't even get vacation time, I just don't think it's reasonable, you know? I mean, I think if you survey a lot of towns, you're gonna find that most of them will you get 2 weeks of vacation,
Correct.
right from the get-go.
But that was not what I was heading for, in trying to move this forward. On a prompt schedule to move forward with. It was trying to straighten out some of those other things, such as, okay, someone that 1 year or 2 years really wasn't getting, especially 2 years, wasn't getting 2 weeks because they hadn't reached their anniversary.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, if you actually open up the other one, which is the accrual one, you'll see I was heading, and that I would definitely have to go back to the select board without just recommending it myself. If you look at the on the second page, the years of service to vacation days, that is more favorable than we currently have. But so I'm not disagreeing with you at all on that point, Donna, believe me.
Well, to Donna's turn, I mean, I do think the common practice out there, even for private employment, is within 1 year, you're at 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we do 1 week per year for the first 4 years, and then you're maxed out at 4 weeks vacation. But you earn a PTO day for every year of service up to a max of 5, and you get 80 hours. You have to accrue it, but you get the equivalent of 2 weeks worth of sick time. So you're maxed out on your 5th year. And in theory, at that point, you've got 4, 5, 6, 7 full weeks that you can take throughout the year.
I think the problem with accruing it monthly or per pay period or whatever, if you can't use it and you can't carry it over,
Right.
then if someone always takes 2 weeks of vacation in July, it always looks like they're in the hole. I like the idea of crediting them on July 1 for the however many weeks they get, and that's what they get. You know, I don't, rather than doing the, you know, accruing by how many hours they work, or you know, adding it slowly, because then it looks like they don't have it to use until the end of the year.
Well, except, especially when someone starts, it gives them the ability to use it earlier. But that's just basically in someone that's starting.
And how do you treat if somebody uses all their time and then leaves before they've accrued it, or would have accrued it?
So that whole garnish
That's why I put
piece,
that little
as long,
piece in there.
I think what you'll find, as long as it's written and they sign off on it, that they understand that's the policy, then you can garnish it. So there may be a grandfather provision
Yeah.
if we were to make that change.
But that would be only for someone who, basically, who's a new hire? Okay.
Or until you print it, I mean, when the policy book finally gets updated, do all employees have to re-sign?
If something like that goes into effect, I would say yes.
Because they're signing, acknowledging the fact that they read and understood everything.
But say somebody that's been here for 5 years and gets 3 weeks of vacation, and they take those 3 weeks before September, say, of that year, and then they end up taking a job somewhere else and they resign. You know, I guess if they're getting the vacation time as of July 1, in my mind, that's theirs to use whenever they use it. It doesn't, right? It's not like,
Well, not if you're giving them an advance credit and going to their anniversary date.
but that's not how it is now.
No, that's why I'm trying to check, what's one of the
But then,
advantages.
so then if you change it that way, then what happens, so then some people are kind of like losing time. Because right now, you're earning it technically in the year before you get credited it on July 1. So now,
You won't get credit until the year after. You wouldn't reach your 5 years until September 1st. You're past July 1st, you won't get it till next year. This is advancing into that previous year. So there would be
so then
any
it would
more.
only be that 1 week, if that 1 week got used before September 1st on their
Right.
anniversary date, then they'd have to pay it back? Is that the deal? Okay. Okay, I mean, I guess that makes sense. So it's really only in play in a year when they're
Transitioning.
transitioning. 5 years, 10 years,
Right.
20 years, or
If we-
whatever. it is.
as long
Or
as-
5, 12, I
As
think
long as
it
we
is.
keep following this, if we change this in any way from the current method, which I probably would like to do, but that will probably take a little more time to get more vacation time, then we'd have to take a look at what we changed it to and see, okay, would anybody be negatively impacted by those additional changes? And at that point, if you look and find that existing employees might be negative impacted, what you can do is say, put the little asterisk in there and say, this is the policy for anyone starting employment after such and such a date. Yeah.
Okay.
So you're wanting us to vote on this one?
No, right,
Oh, we're not
vacation
voting
is
at all.
it's just before us for discussion.
Yeah, but
Okay.
I'd like the feedback, and if the three of you actually feel that I'm somewhat on the right track with that first one, I'd be happy to send it off to KP Law to tell me especially about the second clause, if they think we can do it, and add it to the next select board agenda to make sure that they're good with it, rather than putting it on a permanent hold.
Now, the service equivalent is a year? Or what is service equivalent?
It means the number of hours that you, so currently, the way it reads is by week. So someone that works in this building, like in the collector treasurer's office or the assessor or whatever, that works basically a 30-hour week or a 31-hour week, they get 40 hours of vacation for each week. It's not equivalent because that's how it was written.
Right.
So they get more than a week, they get more than their normal work week for a week's vacation.
They do or don't.
They do,
No, they
correct.
don't.
I think so.
So if I'm at 30, if I'm a,
One service equivalent becomes, you could say, is equal to 1 week. However, then you have to multiply that times the .083 and then times their number of hours. And then what happens is because of the number of hours, it brings it back to an hourly basis. So 1 week means an employee that works 32 hours. That 1 week is equal to 32 hours, not 40, not 20, not anything else. Someone who works 20 hours, that one service equivalent becomes equal to.
That's
a week
what
of
you're
20.
saying. What I'm saying is how it is now.
That is how it is now.
it's written in here that makes it seem like, well, it works X number of hours. but
When was
it
this
says
last modified?
40 hours.
2016? And it's right there, under 12.2. In accordance with the following guidelines, number of service equivalents times number of hours listed on the employee personnel change form, BCF equals the number of hours vacation. As an example, employee has worked for the town 2 years, works 40 hours per week according to the employee's hiring PCF, and is granted 2 service equivalents. 2 service equivalents times the 40 hours equals 80 hours or 2 weeks vacation. Now, if that person worked 32 hours, substituting that, it would be 2 service equivalents times 32 hours equals 64 hours
So
of 2 weeks vacation.
do people get paid based on, let's say your PCF says 32 hours, and they want to just take something less than that for their time off, but it's within a week. I mean, is there, I don't think I'm explaining it very well.
You can take a day, you can take half a day, you can take 3 days in any particular
So it's
time.
not necessarily 4-day weeks.
It's broken down to the hours equivalent, so.
Okay. I'd have to really look at this and study it, but And what if they change their hours, working hours?
There would be a new PCF,
Right.
so we go by the most current PCF.
Okay.
So when you have the PCFs that we approve that say like up to 15 hours.
But they wouldn't be
But
benefited.
they
Yeah, they wouldn't be benefited.
Well-
so we don't have to worry about
All
it.
right, but hypothetically, if we have an employee who is currently working 18 hours a week, non-benefited, but then they apply and are hired for another position that is non-benefited 15 hours a week.
Yeah,
Then you have a
They're both
benefit,
non-
you have a benefited employee at that point.
And even if they're only doing it for a 12-week temporary appointment.
No, if on a temporary, no.
I don't necessarily disagree with you, but where is it written? If it's not written,
Yeah.
then it's arguable, right?
right, because there is something about temporary employees, and I can't remember now, but there is something about temporary employees and like holidays and vacation or sick time. I can't remember now what is written, but there is something.
Well, I get confused between emergency and temporary sometimes.
Not emergency,
Yeah,
temporary.
But I believe temporary are not eligible for any, and I'll go read the book, not eligible for any benefits as far as sick or vacation time. However, by FSLA, they become eligible to partake of our health insurance. But let me go grab the book.
That's right. I actually ran into this when Derek was a temporary employee, how I remember. And this must have changed because this is not how I remember. But maybe I'm just getting old and I'm forgetful, but that's not what I remember it.
I mean, the goal really is that when somebody takes vacation or sick time, is you're trying to keep them whole for
Yeah.
what their
Yeah. Yeah.
regular pay would be.
And I believe this all came about because there was one of the most recent hires came towards the end of the fiscal year. And under the current guidelines, they have to go over a year before they even get vacation time, which
To
is
me,
just
that's
not fair.
right.
It's not fair.
It's not.
Right, so either you put in a section saying, listen, if you're hired on July 1st, doesn't matter, you get the full thing. And then by quarter, just break it down, but give them something so that
Right.
people shouldn't have to wait
Right.
over a year in order to be able to take time
Right,
off.
and you really don't get sick time either, I mean, like, if you,
Right.
the way it is now, you pretty much get nothing for a year.
Right,
And that's not fair, and it's not realistic to think that somebody really is not gonna miss a day or have to be out a day for a whole year.
Right.
It's just not, and why should they have to take it unpaid? I mean, it's just, we're so uncompetitive in other ways, I don't understand why it's,
Actually, that's what I've got it. Right here. Oh, my
Yeah,
God.
you're right,
Temporary employees. It's in here somewhere. Just, yeah, temporary employees are not eligible for benefits except as required by law.
So at least as a temporary employee, taking that second position, if you're over the 20 hours, doesn't really apply. And you don't have to worry if that first position says up to.
right.
I'm always hesitant about the up tos that I understand that, okay, you know, in certain positions, it's like with the part-time police officers, one week they might work 8 hours, another week they might work, you know, 2 shifts of 16 or maybe even 24 hours, but
So I think what I'm hearing is that the committee is open to and agreeable to a modification to the vacation policy with a leaning towards using this time to possibly make this adjustment to be more competitive with, or more modernized, might be the better term, which would open up the door to changing the amount of time based on years and that, which we would want feedback from the select board prior to posting that in a public meeting. And that,
I would agree with that, so.
understanding that, you know, that just based on our current technology that we have for payroll, accruals are not. The accruals only work if you just, on date of hire, you punch them in, boom, 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 and the system does it for the next 25 years that they're working here.
Right.
That makes it easy. When the accruals are based on someone manually going in and doing adjustments
That
every
makes
pay
sense.
period, that doesn't make sense. So
Yeah.
it somehow needs to be prorated, whether it's the first year, depending on what quarter you come in, you get 75, 50, or 25% of that number, and then starting that next July, you're treated as if you're in that second year. I think are all on the table, right?
Yeah.
So,
So with the money that should be coming from the government, is a new payroll system, could that be part of it?
One of the things we're going to look at, we're going to look at it anyway, but I do think that ARPA can fund it, as we were looking to upgrade our financial software anyway.
there's been a lot of discussion on the listserv, because different towns are looking and what's out there and what's gonna work, and,
Right. Are you big enough to be using Munis?
we use Munis.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, but we don't use it for payroll.
Oh, really?
They did at one time, but now it goes out to Harper's. But we got budget requests today from our new town administrator. She sent out an email and said for the ARPA funds that pretty much the way the email was worded, that anything that's it can fall under loss of revenue. You know, that you can have, you know, pretty much anything can, any request, if it doesn't fit into any other category,
Loss of revenue.
it fits under loss of revenue.
And my guess is it'll be under $1 million per line item, which
Right, so you don't
won't
have the
trigger
other
supporting
written authorization
documents.
yet.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right,
Yeah.
because we have, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Jen did find out even with our existing system, we can add an accrual module from software, which we currently don't have. It's just a question of how much do they want for that additional module. But like I said, it's time for us to upgrade to something that is more user-friendly. 'Cause I've used newer forms of software than we have here, and it is much more user-friendly and not as redundant, because the departments could actually start the input of the information
And then it
rather
flows
than
through.
writing it out or whatever and sending it, then having to be re-entered, and then it's basically the collectors or the accounting function to go in and then check that and approve that.
Right. So
I mean,
go ahead.
The one, you know, Munis took me a while to learn, and I still don't know it all. And with changing any software, it's painful, and,
It's very painful.
but, you know, I do have to say that it is nice to be in such an integrated piece with the accounting, and the school can,
Yeah.
you see a piece of it, as soon as you post something, everyone who's on the system can see if payments are posted or what the collections are or whatever. You're not waiting for data entry and like Jen to enter all the receipts and then the accounting
To-
to approve them all, and then
Right. Yeah.
you know, like it's, there's still receipts to enter, but nothing like, it's not all the tax receipts, you know, and so it's way less, and,
It's more in real time.
right.
Right,
Yeah.
it's less person power redundant, so, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I also, you know, depending on what software you end up going, or the town ends up going with, you know, with Hoyoke it was Munis and payroll was in-house. Fine. When I covered for Chester, payroll was outsourced and it was SoftWrite. And it was a manual entry, but there was a bridge built between, so when it came down, there's a template, boom, 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 punch in, make sure, run the tape, make sure everything matches and goes through.
Yeah.
With Washington, there was an automated bridge. It came over, it loaded into something, it wasn't SoftWrite, it started with a V,
Vadar.
Vadar,
Yeah,
which is very, at least that version was very antiquated. But the bridge came in, boom, it sat there, I hit a button, it printed out the report, I compared it to the hard copies that they sent me, they matched, and then, you know, you push it through. So sometimes it is worth, on payroll,
yeah.
to look to somebody else, because I think I don't know how difficult it is here, or when you were here for, as treasurer, but it only takes a nickel to throw your 941s off. And then you're spending hours trying to figure this out, where the payroll companies are masters in this area, and they assume all that liability.
Correct, and, yeah, and actually, Vadar does not have a payroll module, so you
Correct.
have to outsource it. SoftWrite does, so you can keep it in-house if you want to. And to me, it actually gets into the legal or liability end of it, probably a little more, it's quite, because especially when those laws are changing as far as payroll goes and whatever, if you're outsourcing it, that's their responsibility rather than, you know, your employees staying up to date
Right.
on
I mean, you
those
still,
changes.
right,
So-
you would still need a support person in the
Oh,
office.
absolutely, yeah.
You know, to do it, but that wouldn't necessarily, and again, I haven't been in this treasurer's office, so I don't know what the hour commitments are, but it probably wouldn't be as labor intensive as it is right now, so they could shift their focuses somewhere else, and generally, it's not the equivalent of an FTE when you outsource. You know, I mean, even check writers is $4.50 per employee, you know, per month, so, or per pay cycle.
Yeah, I can't remember who we used when I was in Beckett. It wasn't.
It's probably
It
up
wasn't
in-
Harper's and it wasn't
up
Shepherd.
in the Pittsfield area.
Yeah, could have been.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very nice woman, but king of the XLs. But they had no liability, so.
Right.
So are we good on vacation for right now? We're going to table it and continue to work on that, and we'll move forward with the public hearing on the other 2 items, or the other 3
Yeah.
items that we have? Okay, so,
And thanks for giving me some input on, gives me a reality check on what path I probably should be pursuing, so thank you.
you're welcome.
Anytime.
Next on the agenda, we've already dealt with the library staff with our universal vote that we already took. Election workers, same thing. They're all going to 1425, some are at
Oh, you want to take
1250.
this?
Oh, I guess I'll be lost without it.
That one is all set, so that brings us to the highway department. And we have a PCF for a resignation, effective January 30th. I'm not going to try and pronounce his last name.
Caravo. Yeah,
Caravo.
Andrew Caravo.
Andrew Caravo. We have a letter of resignation from him. Again, his last day is going to be January 30th. It's signed off by the department head.
Leaving to take a job somewhere else.
Correct.
Motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. And then we have, today's the 20th.
I was doing some work in Chesterfield this week, and they have 2 new highway guys. Younger, like early 20s. And do you know what they are paying them
What?
in Chesterfield? Which you'd think is a small town, they'd be worse than us. $21 to start, and once they got their hoisters, they were getting 21. This guy, you gotta have your class 2 and your hoisters to start, and they're making $17.54
Oh, my
or something
goodness.
like that.
Yeah.
So that's why people leave, because
Yeah.
So next, we have a PCF from the assessor's office regarding Ms. Domina. And this is to continue for additional hours at the assessor's office, not to exceed 16 hours per week for 12 additional weeks, beginning February 5th through April 28th, 4 additional hours per week. The town accountant noted that no extra available funds in the admin assistant funds will need to be transferred from another account to cover additional cost.
but there should be extra in the assistant assessor line, right?
Correct. Which is where he's recommending the money come from on the back end.
So it's within the departmental budget, just not in the right
On the
line?
line item. Yep. Discussion?
Nope.
I would say, I would vote to approve.
Second?
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Okay, and then not on the agenda, but a last minute addition under other is a PCF from our police chief asking that we fill a full-time, that we fill a unfilled budgeted position within the police department for a full-time certified officer by the name of Wendy Izzo. Patrol officer, step 1, probationary status, $24.02, which is in alignment with the collective bargaining agreement. Any objections?
No.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All
Aye.
right. Okay, and then I don't do that. I believe that is it, unless any member wants to bring something else up. Oh, what's this? All right, hold on a second. So we also have 1/20/22, that's today. So So there is an emergency 2-week appointment request from the treasurer-collector, effective January 24th, to appoint Robin Richard
For 2 more weeks.
for 2 more weeks. Grade step 6, salary of hourly rate of $19.25, which I think is our highway
Yes, it
wage.
is. I knew the 2 weeks wasn't going to be enough. But it's not really emergency anymore. Now we're kind of falling into the temporary, aren't we? Because emergency is generally only once. But, I mean, you know,
So you're thinking it should be more like up to a 12-week instead of the 2-week emergency?
I mean, generally, you do the 2-week emergency to get them in right away, and then it goes to the temporary. I mean, that's kind of how it, she didn't want to take the temporary because I think Jen was hoping to get someone in that she could hire temporary before she actually filled the position with that person. But if we can do, and I've never seen, not that I've been doing this that long, but the same person hired as a subsequent emergency hire. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
But, I mean, tax bills are due February 1st. The next 2 weeks are going to be busy for her. So, I mean, I'm not going to stop it. I just don't know that that's...
So you don't think, though, 2 weeks is enough anyway?
Well, once the tax bills are in, and by the second week of February things will slow down for her until motor vehicle goes out, and I assume she's posted, and maybe I haven't talked to Jen, so I don't know who she has for applicants or whatever. So I mean, I'm happy to approve this 2 weeks. Usually it's not 2 subsequent emergencies for the same person. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Right.
But
So do we want, given everything you just said, because of the timing and all that, do we want to approve this, but with a side note or caution that we're not likely to entertain a third request
for emergency.
for an emergency
Right.
at a higher than budgeted
Correct.
rate?
Right.
Correct.
Okay,
I go with that.
so I can word that into the motion?
Yeah.
If we're all good with that?
Yep.
Okay. All right. And that cleans out our mailbox. So if there is nothing else,
I was
yes.
just wondering if somewhere in it, certainly not tonight, but if there's any things that we can do as a committee to, one, kind of push the town to actually hire a full-time or permanent HR person and
It wouldn't be full-time.
disband our committee,
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it would need to be full-time. I think that, I was
Yeah, it
just
doesn't
talking...
have to be full-time.
I was just talking to, actually, the collector treasurer in Belchertown, who, I mean, it's not, as far as benefits go, like, she had a benefits person who left, and now they're gonna hire it out to like an HR firm, or, Didn't we talk about having a shared position or something like that?
Yeah, so I can tell you from the select board's point of view, the Donahue Institute has been engaged to provide a study of 5 towns, with Southampton being one of them, and the larger one, for HR services. And I think the hope is the end result will be that those communities will come together for one individual HR person. Mm-hmm. And potentially our share would be the equivalent of 2 days. Mm-hmm. So to me, that would be I'm already pushing for that on the select board side, to eliminate, once that person, even if we just start with an HR generalist, who is on the track for a SHRM certification or something,
Right.
at 2 days a week, it's a start. They certainly could handle all this stuff, and then what could they do from there? And as we see value in it, and we continue
And
to grow
they
the
would take
town.
some of the work out of the treasurer collector's office too, as far as.
Right, managing the benefits and all that.
Benefits and, right.
Payroll would stay over in treasury.
Right,
you know.
right.
But then it becomes a question, just under our setup, where does this person fit? Do they report because they're taking stuff out of the treasury? Are they sitting in the treasurer's office? Do they report to that elected official? Do they have a dotted line to the TA?
I would think they.
I would
would
think-
report
Discussion that needs to be
Ed.
had.
Yeah, I would think it would go to the TA.
Yeah.
I mean, this was something that I know Jim and I were kind of pushing and trying to get way back when, so whenever this was, came out. Because there is so much to HR, and, I mean, I left, I was certified, but I left before all the changes happened.
Yeah.
You know, the federal changes and stuff. So I don't feel I'm up to date on any of that. And, I mean, there's a lot that I, collectively, I think we do, and I haven't even been here very long, but I think we do fairly well, but there's so much that I think falls through the cracks. And also somebody, I mean, just take for instance FMLA. Nothing, at least while I was in this role, was ever done to manage that. And I don't know if there's been cases since, but I mean, that, it can be a very sticky issue if it's, you know.
I mean,
and
I
problematic
remember when
if
I
it's
was
not.
treasurer, there was some, there was at least one person that had, filled out FMLA in case they needed it, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But,
Right.
but yeah, it's not, you need somebody that.
complex,
Yes, yes,
And times have changed, and we need to modernize.
yeah.
And the longer we go without something, the more we expose ourselves to possible risk.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
So are there a lot more PCFs that we didn't vote on tonight that,
No, these are ones we did on the 3rd that were still in the box, so I have to
Oh,
figure out where
okay.
they need to get filed.
so
I believe we voted
Finance
on
Committee's
everything.
going to have to meet soon. We don't have a meeting scheduled yet, do we?
Not that I'm aware of.
But I'm guessing it will be next week. Isn't it usually the 4th week? Isn't it, it's usually like the week after the PPP, whatever. I'll text Vicki again and see if she wants to set up a meeting. I don't know what your availability is.
For next week? I mean, I could do Monday after 6 o'clock.
Usually it's at 7, so
Okay, so Monday could work.
Monday,
Now, is that something I would need to be at?
no.
Oh, good. Because I got something on.
I could do Thursday.
Okay.
I'd rather not do Friday, but
Yeah, no, not
Okay.
Friday.
Okay.
All right, so you can expect to hear from, well, if you're signed up for the thing, I'll text Vicki and let her know and see if she wants to set up a meeting that we can do it either Monday or Thursday at 7, and then, okay.
So just to end our recording here,
Oh,
can we have our next meeting is scheduled for February 17th, which is the 3rd Thursday.
okay.
I'm okay with doing it then, unless you guys want to meet sooner to have the public hearing. Do we want to do the public hearing and our regular meeting the same night? open public hearing, see what feedback there is, maybe.
So that would just happen here?
Yeah, we would just have to post that we're having a public hearing on these 3 issues. Anybody can come
What are those
in.
issues, yeah?
The, adding the word benefited to the
Oh.
short-term
That's
disability,
got to be at a public hearing? Oh, my.
the sick time, and then replacing selectmen with
Select board.
the select board through the entire
Oh,
handbook.
okay.
I don't think it's going to be controversial. I think we may have a 5-minute public meeting.
Yeah, I'd rather
But
not
then
have to have
Just
another night.
try and do it all
Yeah.
the same night.
Yeah,
Okay.
so let me just check.
All right, so our next meeting will be February 17th. Is there a motion to adjourn
So moved.
and seconded?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The time is 7:12.
Okay.